China from 1839 onward got the shit kicked out of it by the industrial powers, by the opium. I'm Jeffery Sachs, and I've been visiting China now for almost 40 years. In 1981, when I visited Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangdong province, things were still pretty basic. So I've seen the remarkable transformation of this country and moving from a rural and poor country to a very sophisticated country that is on the verge of completely eliminating extreme poverty. When I was advising Poland, they had a particular interest, which was to join back with Europe after the artificial division of the Cold War. So they asked me, how could we reestablish the economic relations between Poland and Western Europe as fast as possible? For China, it was a very different situation. The situation in China was starting as a very poor rural society that had faced a lot of upheaval, how to find a way forward. And the first steps, of course, were rural reform, the household responsibility system. That was a big change. Within 5 years, the whole rural region was changed to household responsibility, covering hundreds of millions of people. Very, very fast economic change. And then starting in the early 1980s was the urban transformation, beginning with the coastal areas and the special economic zones. So China had specific conditions and it had specific needs, and I think it's done an excellent job. The opening up was really, for the Chinese people, a breath of fresh air. Those were the starting days. But of course, in economic development, things have moved faster here than in any other place in history. And so China went through all the phases of urbanization, heavy industrialization, now innovation economy, and moved to high quality and high technology. It's happened within a 40-year period. It's an amazing accomplishment. And so to my mind, it is really an example for other countries, and I often cite China's success as a kind of model or approach for African countries, for example. Every day when thousands of lives are saved from malaria deaths in Africa, that's because of Chinese science. That's because of artemisinin, which was developed from Chinese Tsinghua wormwood by Chinese Nobel laureate scientists. Since I wrote a book called The End of Poverty, to see poverty come to an end in China is a great accomplishment and a great inspiration for places like Africa, where there still is a lot of poverty. But when I go to Africa, I say, you see how fast China ended poverty. You can do the same thing. And so China is a kind of model or inspiration for rapid poverty reduction. China is moving in the direction of sustainable development, because if you look at the 13th plan, or if you look at the broader direction of the country for 2050, it's now about eco-civilization. It's about beauty and a safe environment. It's about social harmony, social inclusion. So the big principles of sustainable development are well described by the Chinese direction right now. The first thing everybody knows, we're in a tremendous period of historical change. Historical mark will be to have moved to China with more than 1 billion people from predominant poverty to the end of poverty in a half century. It's a truly extraordinary contribution even in a 40-year period, one could say. So this will go down in history as not only a record, but also as an inspiration. And it will be achieved. Now, the world has said in the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations that we should end extreme poverty everywhere by the year 2030. I would like China to play a global leadership role to help bring that about. China will have proved that it's feasible, and I think China can make a huge contribution to the remaining low-income parts of the world.